Shalom, this is Truth Unveiled, and I wanted to jump on here and do this video for you regarding the 2025 calendar with the 2025 calendar and appointed times. Now, I realize there's still a little bit of 2024 to go. However, I wanted to do this video now just so that you have record of it and just so that you're already updated in case you're already updating your next Gregorian calendar. You'll already know the dates for the new year and also when the appointed times are for next year. Now, for those of you who've been following this network for a long time now, you know that, again, we go based on the scriptural 𝐤𝐄𝐅𝐄 or Enoch calendar. If you would like to learn more about that, or if you're wondering how we arrive to these dates and why we get to the dates that we get to and why we use these dates, please take a look at the Rumble channel and look up the ancient Enoch calendar video or the Enoch video on that channel. It's a Scriptures Often Ignored video. It's about 2 hours long. That video will go over and discuss in detail why we use this calendar to its entirety and specifically. Also, for those of you who might be new to this network and wondering what I'm even talking about, please take a look at Leviticus chapter 23 to read more about the 7 appointed times so you can learn about what they are and how to observe them and everything. You can also take a look at our Rumble channel as well, and even some videos on this channel that will also help you further your understanding about how to observe these appointed times and where to go about observing them and what to do during these appointed times. Now, you'll notice some things about this calendar that's a little bit different than some of the other ones. The first thing that we're going to go over is that it's an intercalary year. Now, the new year for next year will begin on so-called March 25th, 2025 at sundown. Yes, again, for those of you who don't already know, so-called January 1st is not the new year. Let me repeat that. January 1st is not the real scriptural new year. The real scriptural new year is always around the time of the beginning of spring, always coinciding around the time of the vernal equinox. And again, the book of 𝐤𝐄𝐅𝐄 Enoch talks more about that, and we go into detail more about that in that specific video. So I'm not going to do that today in this video. However, I just wanted to come on here to show you the actual appointed times in the calendar and when the month begins. Again, there are 12 months and it goes on a 30, 30, 31 day system, as we've noted here. Also, the calendar will be linked in the description box below. Both the 2025 and 2024, the current year's calendar, will be linked in the description box below so you can take a look at it. So for those of you who are wondering, because I see that in the comments sometimes, people are wondering, well, how do I download the calendar? Where can I find it? You can find it in the description box indeed. So anyway, the new year will begin on March 25th, 2025, so-called, as of that so-called Tuesday evening. And again, days go from evening to evening. We've also done a video on that, covered that extensively. You can also take a look at that as well, about why days begin in the evening and why we observe them from the evening. And then the second month begins so-called April 24th, 2025, and so on. So this just tells you when the month begins and when the month ends right here. And then the end of the year for next year will be as of so-called March 24th, 2026. And for 2026, the new year would begin right after that. When we go to appointed times and Shabbaths, the weekly Shabbath is from Friday evening to Saturday evening. This is one of the commandments, that we are to keep the Shabbath or Sabbath Kadush. We are to rest on that day. We are not to work. We've also talked about that as well. And you can read more about that in the scriptures to learn more about how to observe it and how to keep it and what we are to do. You can also take a look at Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 58, as well as Shamuth, Exodus chapter 20, indeed. So these are the list of the appointed times. This is the date in the Yahudim, or so-called Hebrew, as it's known today. This is when it begins, and this is when it ends. So as you can see, Pasachah, or Passover, is always the 14th day of Ab-Yab, or the 14th day of the first month. Next year, it will begin that Monday evening, April 7th, 2025, and go all the way until so-called April 8th of 2025. Now, we normally do it, the Passover, it's supposed to be a meal and a memorial. We normally do that on the evening of it, so we always do it that Monday evening, indeed. And then unleavened bread is a 7-day festival, so it's going to be 7 days in a row. It's going to begin that so-called April 8th and go all the way until April 15th, those 7 days from sundown to sundown during that time. And the first fruits is in between there on the 19th day of Ab-Yab, which is always going to be on that day 1, or from so-called Saturday night, April 12th, to Sunday at sundown, April 13th. of 2025. Now, when it comes to the Harvest Festival or the Feast of Weeks, commonly known as Pentecost, erroneously known as Pentecost, it's known as Shabua'uth in the Yahudiya or the Yahudiya Hebraic tongue. This is on the 26th day of the 4th month. It's always in the summer as of July 19th through July 20th of next year on day 1. Now, I know many people, and there are many different assemblies and organizations and places out there that observe this in the spring. I know many places observe it on the 15th day of the 3rd month. However, there is a reason we observe it when it comes to the summer. We've done videos on this, as well as the word says when it comes to counting that you are to count 7 Shabbats and then count 50 days. So there are 2 counts, and we'll go over that a little bit more. But that is why we observe it in the summer. Again, I cannot control what other people do. I cannot control what other assemblies do. I cannot control what other organizations do and why they observe it the way they do. I'm just telling you why we observe it the way we do, for those of you who might be wondering. And then you have the fall appointed times. So you have the Ruah trumpets. We've gone over, of course, why this is so important and significant of September 23rd, 2025 through September 24th, 2025. Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, a very important day indeed. Next year will be from October 2nd through October 3rd. And then Tabernacles will be from October 7th. Well, it's the regular 7-day festival. And then there's the last great day, which is that day 8 from October 14th through October 15th of next year. We also include notes right here just so that you can have a reference. So matzah, unleavened bread, runs for 7 consecutive days. That is during the time where you're only supposed to eat unleavened bread. You're not supposed to eat anything with leaven in it, such as cakes or pies that have things like yeast in it. And again, you could take a look at some of our videos that we've done on this subject for more, and read the word Shamuth Exodus 12 is a great place for an explanation of Passover and matzah, unleavened bread indeed. So that goes from April 8th to April 15th, 2025 for 7 consecutive days. Sakuth, Tabernacles, and Last Great Day runs for 8 consecutive days from October 7th through October 15th, 2025. And you're supposed to sound the shupar or shofar at the beginning of each month. Now, if you do not have one of these, that's fine. You can use your voice and praises as well to acknowledge it and to give thanks and praise to Yahuwah as well. So now on the last page, we have notes as well. So we have the weekly Shabbat, we have the each appointed time, when it is in the Gregorian, and also some scriptural references where you can read more about it and study more with your family and things like that, and also how to observe it. So for example, with unleavened bread, the 1st and 7th day, if you're able to have a convocation, there's no Sarah work to be done on those days on the 1st and last day of unleavened bread, and there are scriptural references, and there are also for first fruits as well, which is the counting of the omer and the sheaf offering that was done back then. And then again, Feast of Weeks, notice how we have here 7 Shabbat count plus 50-day count, and we've gone over that extensively and why that is. There's no Sarah work to be done that day either, and a convocation is to be held. And then, of course, we have trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles as well, where it's Shabbat on both trumpets and atonement, and no Sarah works to be done. And we've gone over with Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, about fasting and why we are to humble our being and fast on that day. And then tabernacles is the first day is considered a Shabbat, a convocation, no Sarah work, and to dwell in booths as instructed. Now, some people dwell in tents during this time. If you're not able to, the important thing to remember is that what YAHUSHA tabernacles dwells with us. And then the last great day is the 8th day is a Shabbat, a convocation, no Sarah work. And here are the scriptural references as well. Now, what I wanted to turn your attention to is right here where it says intercalary year, because I know we've gone over this in Scriptures Often Ignored on the previous network about what that is and why that's the case, because this calendar is a 364-day calendar. So the Chanukah Enoch calendar is laid out in 364 days with the witness of Ubalium Jubilees chapter 6 as well, to also add to that witness of it being 364 days. But then why did the beast known as Rome think to change times and laws? That is a good question indeed, because again, they're going to tell us that, oh, because of the globe. And by the way, the world is not a globe. You can learn more about that on our Rumble channel. But because of that, they now claim that, oh, the world, that the earth revolves around the sun every 365 and a quarter days. And sometimes there has to be a leap day added, as it was for so-called 2024. For last year, there was a leap day added, making it 366 days in that Gregorian year. So because of that, and because that happens, now we're here at this 2024 calendar. And the reason we're here is because you'll see that this was not noted as an intercalary year. And I know we did a video on that extensively, but to catch everyone up for those who might have missed that video, again, we're around this time right now. This is where we are right now. We're in the 9th month now. That began as of the evening of Saturday, November 16th. So after that Shabbat is when the new month began, and it goes all the way until December 17th of 2024. And then there are 3 months left of the year. And again, notice how each month, notice how it coincides with the season. So you have the first 3 months coinciding with spring, the second 3 months, months 4, 5, and 6 coinciding with the summer. Months 7, 8, 9 coincide with the fall, and months 10, 11, and 12 coincide with the winter. You can also learn more about that in our rainbow videos that was uploaded on this network as well, to learn more about how the rainbow fits into this as well. But why is that important is because, again, this calendar and appointed times, they also go based on the seasons, as scripture tells us too in Brashith Genesis chapter 1 as well. So now it's interesting, because as you see here, that according to this, that the year actually ends this current year. So the year that we're currently in will end as of March 18th, 2025. But then when you look at the 2025 calendar, it begins a week after, as of March 25th, 2025. Now, I know some of you might be wondering, well, why is that the case? Why is an extra week there? And that is because of the intercalary year. And again, we've gone over this in extensive detail, how about every 5 to 6 years, every 5 to 6 Gregorian years, again, because the Gregorian goes on 365 days, or in some cases 366 days, as it did last year for so-called 2024, before this current year. Because of that, sometimes in order to adjust to that, when it comes to our calendar, you would have to intercalate an extra week there. Again, the reason for this is because, again, Rome has what have they done? They've thought to change times and laws, because if you do not intercalate, then what's going to happen is eventually your new year is going to start in the winter, and then your new year is going to start in the summer, and so on and so forth, if you do not intercalate. And also, you have to remember that according to the book of Kanuk, that this coincides with it coincides with the equinox. It coincides with the vernal equinox. So if you begin your new year before the actual vernal equinox, well, then that's eventually going to throw off everything. So that is why an intercalary year is noted here, and that is why we start a week after when it comes to this year. And we did this in 2020, for those of you who are wondering as well. 2020 was also an intercalary year, and we also had to intercalate a week for that year, just as we have to do so for next year as well. So prayerfully that makes sense. Again, Rome has done so much damage to Yasharal, and again, the purpose of this network is to restore what Rome has done and restore everything that was lost, and do our best to seek the ancient path and ask for the ancient path and seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha. But prayerfully this makes sense. Again, I will leave this in the description box below. And again, notice how even next year it all coincides together with the seasons perfectly. How again, from March 25th through June 24th, that's basically spring, and then you have summer going from June 24th through September 23rd. And by the way, the autumn equinox is always around that time. And then you have September 23rd to December 23rd, which is the fall season, and then December 23rd through March 24th, that is the winter. So again, prayerfully this is helpful. This will be linked in the description box. This is Truth Unveiled here, saying as always, Shalom.